Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Today, let's talk about something that's currently funding on Kickstarter. This is, right behind me, Megapulse. Now, this is the board game version, the Amerithrashers racing game, the tweak on the nostalgic view of F-Zero on the tabletop side of things. It's definitely different. And if you have any piqued interest at all in a racing side of things or a little bit of going on the racetrack, you should check this one out. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. Let me tell you things you should know about it. And let's help you figure out whether or not it's right for you with a little bit of my thoughts on it. So, let's do this. So, Megapulse here. As I said, this is very distinctly remnant of and definitely a play off of the old Nintendo series, Nintendo SNES of F-Zero, the racing game with high-speed, futuristic cars going around, racing each other, sabotaging each other, and trying to be the first one to finish. And this game does a very good job of simulating that. I'll tell you that right from the get-go. Now, the biggest question, though, is how does this differ from other racing games that are out there in the first place? And first off, like I said in the intro, this is an Amerithrashers racing game. This is not a perfect information, no interaction, shifting gears very delicately as you turn and go. This is a pedal to the metal, high risk, high reward, play your cards, hope that you play the right order or that you go in the right turn order of someone else. And you know what? It's going to be tight no matter what because you're going to be doing stuff to other people. You're going to be trying to take out their hull and damage them, and you're going to be trying to take them off the course and bump them out of the way all the same while they're going to be trying to do it to you. So if that doesn't appeal to you, if you're looking for something that is, pure the Gran Turismo of tabletop racing games, no, this is not for you. But if you want something that has a little bit more chaos, a little bit more of press your luck in terms of, okay, do I want to try and just floor it, burn through these curves, take some damage, and outrace the other person before my hull gives way? Or do I want to put a couple bombs behind me, shoot a couple blasts ahead of me, go a little slower, but also slow them down enough that I can then get past them? It's fully customizable. I have a stack of turns and tiles that's about 2.5 times this that came in the prototype. And you're looking at this going, well, Chris, these are all the same shape, right? They're all curves. But the thing is, they've all got different pieces on them. They've all got different power-ups on them, or nitro power-ups, or bumpers, or speed-ups, or anything along those lines that are going to change with the amount of curves that are going on in this racetrack. Because the other thing that you need to know that although it comes with a rule book, it also comes with a track book. And the biggest limitation I'll tell you right now of this prototype is that there is only the race mode, the single race mode, and they have a derby mode. And then you have all of these different types of other ones. A pro race, a championship race, tournament, power, team, chrono, elimination, event, AI, boss versus, boss co-op, demolition derby, neon god derby, spellflux ball derby, event derby, damage derby, swarm versus swarm co-op. That's a ton. And then it goes into all of the different setups that you can just make off of their recommendations. And look at this. I'm not kidding. There's 30 in this book just to go off of that I've got on a prototype. And they all come with, okay, well, this is about how long it's going to take you per lap. Choose the number of laps you want to do. This is where the attributes are. This course is going to have more speed ability. This course is going to have more difficulty. This course is going to have more of whatever else. And that's a lot. And for the price point that they're offering, be transparent. It looks like a good price point for the amount of content you're getting with this thing. I can't understate that. The concern I have, though, as someone who has only played and has access to one of those modes on a prototype, is that are all of those modes. I mean, you listened to me, maybe you didn't, list off all of those modes. And if you have heard me say this in any other video when I've talked about this on any other Kickstarter, especially Kickstarters and crowdfunders, is that do one or two things really, 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 really well. I don't want 6 or 3 or 15 things that are done okay. I want them done excellently. And that's what I worry about when I see something that big. It's almost too ambitious, as weird as that sounds. Like, we always want this increased replayability, this increased variability, and I'm not sure you need a boss mode on this. Do you need all of those derbies? I mean, what is it going to gain by having 6 modes that you never use? Save some of that for the second iteration. Save something along the lines for the future. That's what I would be concerned about, because I'm also worried they're spreading yourself too thin when you're trying to balance all of those aspects and all of the ways you're playing and utilizing the stuff that's already there. Blessing or curse that it is, there's a couple different aspects that goes into racing. You've got the cars. So you're choosing the color cars and you get your deck that goes along with it. And there's really only one card that is slightly different between each of these small decks that you're given. And you know what it is before going in. And then you get the little driver abilities, which, you know, you have a little motto here, you know, the champion, the freak, the expert, the trickster, which again, all have slightly different catalyst powers, which is another slight variation. Then the other main variation comes from these upgrade cards that you get whenever you cross the start line or you cross a checkpoint. And it allows you to upgrade an ability you have, or to give your car a new card to play potentially each time, or a new skill that's going to be passively available however and whenever. And I guess what I would be concerned about is maybe take a little bit less modes, give me a little bit more asymmetry in the drivers and that side of things, and the upgrades, where I might get more use out of them on a game-by-game, session-by-session basis, as opposed to, you know, how many times do I have to play the game to play all of the modes, let alone any of the 30 races that are in there before I even decide to do anything myself, right? That's where I think the value could be shifted a little bit. Again, not saying it's bad by any means, but I worry about where they're putting a lot of the eggs, and I might want the eggs to be slightly distributedly different. The other interesting aspect of this is, as much as I've said this is Amerithrash, it really does give you the option to play how you want. My wife and I are not very much take that in these games. I tried to put out some super bombs behind me, and they just never hit in the 2-player game. We were always very easily able to maneuver around them. And we did not use the little attack card that allowed you to shoot lasers and stop somebody or hit somebody up to 5 spaces in front of you. And we went for speed. And so the nice thing about that is that it totally is, you know, a nail biter, cruncher, very close. You know, on the last turn, going 2/3 of the lap all in one, because you finally realized how to do things with your upgrades and your nitro and the cards that you play. And I edge you out by 1 space when you're 2 spaces across the finish line and I'm 3. So that's an interesting dynamic, because when you play it like that, the time that they list within the book of, you know, whatever it may be here, for example, 25 minutes per lap on this tournament ring, if you will. Well, it's maybe 15 or 20 at most, once you get knowing what you're doing. Because you're simultaneously laying these cards down, and then turn order decides who goes first, and you do yours, and then you race, and then I do mine. And there is, you know, it's a combo system, essentially. Like, how can you strategically, tactically work these cards as well as work your race ability in and press your luck before your hull explodes and you have to stop? Because the curves will throw you into the walls, and how do you mitigate that, where, you know, you never thought, but in almost every turn you will find yourself wanting to or debating about using something called grip, which allows you not to slide. And I guess that would be the biggest criticism, is some of the grip rules, some of the curvature explanation of when you're sliding and how you're sliding on these multi-turn curves back and forth really quickly. It's not very clear. It's not as clear as I would like it. It's not hard to interpret. It's not hard to figure out if you really need to, but there are definitely some rules, things that just need a little polishing up on that side of things to completely make it as transparent as possible. Again, minor things I'm quibbling about right now. But again, that's the sort of thing that makes a game good versus great, great versus excellent. When I have to figure out, based off of the one illustration on how turns go, when you only give me the one U-turn as opposed to the turn that goes like this. Is it the first one every time? Is it the second one every time? How does this go? Does, this allow me to go, so just little things like that. It could use more illustration on that side of things in terms of examples, in terms of how this goes each time. The other thing, depending on how you feel about it, is some of the shorter racetracks. It's a little bit less exciting, I guess, because especially as a chaotic, not perfect information game, there is going to be some randomness, some back and forth. And on these super short tracks, I mean, it's kind of a little bit just a race. I mean, there's no time for upgrades. And the upgrades are some of the best portions of this game, whether it's the cards or the upgrade for the cars themselves. With some of these shorter tracks, unless you play 5 laps, you're never going to have enough upgrades or time to be able to use them when you can almost go around the full track in one turn. So that is a positive in terms of playtime, but that's also a negative in terms of being able to utilize the things that make this game the most fun in the first place and just not being able to do it as much as I would like potentially. This game has a weird feeling of how much different can you make these pilots and cars and starting cards in hands without losing the balance at the same time to figure that out and to maneuver that. And so I think that's probably why you've seen a little less variance and a little bit more how you use it, as opposed to just craziness on all aspects and worried about just things being overly, massively underpowered or overpowered. So take that for what you will. All in all, I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I don't have racing games in my collection because they tend to be more Euro-esque than Amerithrash in terms of how you play and the tactician versus the strategy. And so this one made me feel like it was a little bit more suited to my personal tastes compared to the other games out there that are similar in terms of racing. The rally style games. Again, going back to those upgrade cards, some of them just feel more useful than others. A lot of them allow you to take damage, for example, to your hull in order to do certain things. Or allow you to get extra shields. Or there's a one-off that allowed them to just, have a crazy power, but you lost the card afterwards completely. And that would be my biggest concern. Again, I want to see more of them, but I also would want to make sure that there are less of those that I'm just kind of like, meh. Because again, some of the passive ones have a level 1 side and a level 2 side, and the level 2s can be really cool, but again, if you can't ever utilize them, what good does it do you however cool it is? And I guess you could probably house rule it to add like more checkpoints onto a course, and again, customize it more to your liking, especially if you want to do an hour to an hour and a half level of game, you easily could. And you could have these things pimped out and, have a level 2, 2 level 1s, and 3 or 4 extra cards in your hand and just kind of going crazy with it. And if that's what you want, I mean, this reminds me of your way of doing that. And I think it would be fine and do a great job from that side of things. But if you're looking for more of a traditional racing style game with a more fantasy or sci-fi-esque element to it, this is probably not going to be to your liking because you can bomb other people, because you can hurt them, because you can run into them, and running into them only causes them damage, not you. And so you lose some of the ability to be as strategic as you may like to be or want to be, as opposed to other games where you're having to shift and move around and, you really get penalized for, staying in too high of a gear for too long. Or no, I mean, this one, you play it right, you go full 3-4 speed the whole time around, you mitigate it, and it's just a race until the very end, nail biting from that side of things. So if that's what you're looking for, it does a good job of that as well. And again, no dice. No dice on this side of things. So even though I say it's an Amerithrash, it's still without dice in terms of the hand use from that side of things, especially with the heavier interaction. So, that's Mega Impulse. Very interesting concept. I don't really think there's anything else out there like it in terms of what it does with these dynamics. So if you're interested, check out the Kickstarter campaign. I'll put the link in the section below. But otherwise, let me know your thoughts. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with me. And thanks to Ryan Games for sending me a prototype to check out in the first place. So stay classy, and I'll see you around. Zoom, zoom, or truck, as my 1-year-old would call it.